will call the special council meeting of the Irmo Town Council to order, and I will recognize Councilman Paul Gomer to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. For Heavenly Father, we thank you for giving us this opportunity tonight to conduct a town meeting and to discuss business for what's best for the interest of our citizens. Lord, I pray that you just bless this meeting and bless the police officers, bless everyone that could not come tonight, as well as the ones that are here tonight, and take care of them as they return to their homes tonight. In your name we ask, amen.
Amen. Next item on the agenda is the presentation by citizens who would like to discuss anything that is on the agenda tonight. Is there anyone here who would like to discuss something with town council?
Is this for us?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just give us a name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Nancy.
Well, and you just step up to the podium here.
Okay. My name is Nancy Darby. I live at 120 Press Lindler Road.
Can't hear. Is the mic on? Just talk the mic on.
Should be. Should be. Can we try that again?
Okay.
Okay, my name is Nancy Darby. I live at 120 Press Lindler Road, Columbia, South Carolina 29212. I was asked to be here tonight on behalf of Patrick Donlin, who had a letter that he wanted to read to the council tonight, and so I'm here in his stead.
Do you live in town?
I beg
Do you
pardon?
live in Irmo?
I don't live within the town limits. I live on Press Lindler Road, 29212.
Okay.
I continue? Okay. Mr. Mayor and members of council, I am unable to attend tomorrow's meeting, but I wish to make comments on item C under new business. I request my comments to be made part of the meeting. Comments follow. Open meeting laws of this state mandate that business be conducted in an open and transparent fashion. Sometime in advance of March the 1st this year, a decision was made to ask the state of South Carolina to fund development of a park on land which was not owned by the town of Irmo. Seemingly, meetings, phone calls, or whatever were held out of sight of the citizens of Irmo to facilitate and finalize the decision. In fact, the mayor and the town administrator were unaware of the meetings. This flies in the face of requirements of open meeting laws and raises questions of who participated in the meetings, whether there was a quorum at any or all of the meetings, and why the meetings were not documented. And it has to be asked why there were not 3 readings to give citizens an opportunity to comment on action to spend $50,000 of taxpayers' monies, which came under severe criticism by the governor when additional monies in the amount of $30,000 was requested. On March the 1st, a request was forwarded to the South Carolina Parks, Recreation and Tourism Department stating that the town of Irmo was asking for $50,000. The request document was signed by Whit Klein as a town director. This was done by Mr. Klein without Mr. Brown's knowledge. There is a very serious matter of whether Mr. Klein's action was unilateral or if others in town government participated in this deception. My Freedom of Information request was answered that no one in the town had submitted a request to South Carolina Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. The answer provided to me, which was not factual, although Mr. Brown and the mayor thought it to be factual. Those in town government who possibly knew that a document existed did not come forward and answer my request. Those individuals should be asked to explain their inaction. I only have a copy of the request because I went to Parks, Recreation, and Tourism with a Freedom of Information request for the document, a document which should have been forthcoming from the town. If individuals in positions of trust had this information and did not come forward, then this situation is another violation of open meeting laws. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not proficient in matters of law, but as a lay person, I look at the facts and come to a conclusion that activity took place which probably borders on criminality. I suggest the council take action to determine if my suspicions have basis. Business conducted out of sight of citizens casts a very bad light on our community. If the public trust has been violated, there is a need to surface the issues and reach resolution. The longer this issue languishes without investigation, the more demanding the outcome will be to our community and to perceived integrity of members of council. It's my understanding that questions concerning possible non-compliance with open meeting mandates are easily resolved with assistance of the state's Attorney General. Any public official can ask for a review of a situation for which reasonable doubt exists. The Attorney General's office will either rule that no violation took place or prosecution of guilty parties will commence. I suggest that anything short of taking these issues to an outside entity for review is in fact a failure to come to terms with the seriousness of alleged breaches of public trust. Thank you. By Patrick Donlin, 172 Stone Column Way, Columbia, South Carolina, 23212.
Thank you. Is there any, okay.
I'm speaking right now as a private citizen. My name is Jake Moore. I live at 335 Windward Point Road, which is not inside town. Mr. Donlin has no interest in the truth. I know that at least one and probably two council members basically directed him to me, as I probably have more knowledge about the Arbor Day Veterans Park than anybody. He basically said that since he wasn't a lawyer and didn't understand legalese, that he refused to talk to me. He is quick to accuse people of unethical activity, criminality, and God knows what else when you simply have a group of people trying as hard as they can to do something positive for the town. And I, for one, am sick of his accusations, and I'm sick of him. Now, I want to set the record clear in regard to what happened with the Veterans Park. My friend Dr. Serv Gurham called me and said, would the town of Irmo take 3 acres of land to use as a park or for public property? I brought that to the town of Irmo and asked the town of Irmo, would you consider taking it? And the answer was, due to a number of discussions, it would be better not to have the town take the land. I told him, Dr. Gurham, that the Arbor Day Committee would take it and turn it into a veterans park. He graciously granted 3 acres of very fine property in town to a 501c3 independent body. Now, if Mr. Donlin believes that the Freedom of Information Act applies to a 501c3 entity, he had better start consulting a lawyer before he starts maligning anybody else. And I will place him on notice tonight that I'm not a public figure. The members of the Arbor Day Committee are not a public figure. We're not bound by the Freedom of Information Act. And the 501c3 status of our entity exists because the town asked us to be a separate private organization, which we are. When the town when the Arbor Day Committee started to build the Arbor Day Park, the Veterans Park, we figured it would take us probably 2 years to raise the $50,000 to $80,000 that would be necessary for us to build that park. We set out to do that. Our goal has been very simple over the last 13 years. Find something that needs to be done, raise the money, do it, and move on. There has been a long-standing policy of this body that this town will work with the Arbor Day Committee. We raise the money. We, in conjunction with my friend Whit Klein, select the projects. They do the work, and we provide the money. It has been a wonderful partnership for 13 years, which has resulted in over $1 million worth of value added to this town by way of beautification. Do you remember what the railroad track used to look like? I invite anybody to go look at the Veterans Park, something we should all be proud of. Now, we take it from there. We decided to make this into a Veterans Park. We as the committee thought that might be a good thing. One of my son's wife's relatives just had serious injury in Afghanistan. We have had kids from this area killed, maimed, hurt, and traumatized, giving sacrifice to this country. We pray all the time to bless our troops. That's a good thing to pray for. They need our blessing. We figured a Veterans Park would be a nice thing to do. Put up a flag and raise the money as we can. We spent about somewhere in the neighborhood of $8,000 to $12,000, I can't tell you exactly, on the Veterans Park. And then one day I got a call from my friend Jake Knotts. And he said, I understand that you're going to build a Veterans Park. And I said, Jakey, yeah, we are. He said, can I help you? It's not the first time Jake Knotts has helped this community. And I said, Jakey, if you can find me some money, you could help me. He said, well, I've been checking around. PRT has grant money available, but you've got to apply now. You're actually late. It's got to be an exercise trail. It's got to have a trail, and it's got to have exercise equipment. But there's up to $50,000 available for your park. I called Whit, and I said, well, what do we need? He said, we talked to this guy from PRT. So we did. And the guy said, you got to have your plans up here now. You're late, but we'll waive the time deadline, but you got to get this stuff up here now. Hurry. Well, the truth of the matter is, I called Whit, turned my car around, drove to the maintenance shed out here. We got a copy of the tax map, got a magic marker out, basically marked off a walking trail and a station for exercise equipment, came up with what we thought it might cost, pulled the application off the internet, and submitted it. I think it was originally submitted in the name of the Arbor Day Committee, and what happened is the guy from PRT called back and said it's got to be in the name of the town. Is that right, Will? Correct. So we initially submitted it, and we were lying so bad. We're such evil people. We submitted it in the name of the Arbor Day Committee. PRT called us back and said it's got to be in the name of the town. So what did Whit do? He changed the form to read Town of Irmo. This is not the first time a department head has ever asked for a grant without the permission or knowledge of the administrator nor the council. It happens all the time. And I hope it continues to happen because it gets money for our town. We were fortunate enough to go to the mailbox about 3 weeks later and find a check, a $50,000 check. The application had been granted and nobody told us. Whit called me and I just about fell out of my chair. I said, well, Whit, for God's sakes, cash the thing. Put it in the bank. So we put it in the bank. At that point in time, we got really serious about doing some work. We found a contractor who could help us with the sidewalk, and then we learned that the town of Irmo would have to have the money, would have to have the land in order to spend the money. I then made a mistake. I lied to you. I defrauded you. I came to you and said, We'll give you the land. We'll give you the $50,000. You'll have a free park. It won't cost you anything. Mr. Donlin apparently says I was a liar. I invite him to talk to me sometime, which he refuses to do. He just wants to sit on the sidelines and complain. I invite anybody to do an investigation of what happened here. All you have is good. All you have is good. And I'm sick of it. I'm fed up with it. We built that park with that $50,000, and we built that park with sweat. The Mormons came one Saturday and helped us shovel mulch. I was right in the middle of them. Dirty, nasty, sweaty, miserable, and having more fun than you could imagine. We shoveled 2 trailer loads of mulch. The people from the community are out there, and they're coming by saying how wonderful it is. And our public works director directed the staff to go help them. It's the first time we've ever heard that there has to be council permission. We got a problem. We're about to do Corley Elementary School. We raised $32,000 with a party, a tree party, to landscape Corley Elementary School. Do we have permission for our public works people to work on that project? If not, we need to know it, because we're going to lose about $10,000 worth of labor we had counted on, and Arbor Day is going to have to supplement that by hiring a private contractor to do the work. Whit wants to do the work. Whit will do the work. Can we? We got a project in front of Irmo Elementary School between the Silver Fox and NBSC. We're going to provide the plant material. It's going to cost us somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000. We've got $65,000 in the bank that we've earned to the works of these people. My question is, will you let Whit do that work? I certainly hope so. Whit did all the work up and down the railroad track. I get all the credit. And Whit did all the work. And his guys, they're the ones that sweat and bleed and work and toil to make this place beautiful. They did the work along the railroad track, and nobody complained about that. We paid for every one of those trees. We paid for every single one of those trees. And pursuant to a long-standing policy of this town, we pay for the stuff, they put it in. I simply ask for some direction tonight in regard to what you want from us. If you want us to stop, we will. We'll take the Arbor Day funds, we'll merge with the St. Andrews group, and we'll go down on the other end of St. Andrews Road. I don't think there's anybody on this council that wants us to stop. But we do need some direction. And I invite Mr. Donlin, if instead of sitting on the sidelines and criticizing and accusing somebody as fine as Whit Klein of unethical activity or criminality for planting a tree, if he really wants the truth, all he's got to do is pick up a phone and call my telephone number. I'll answer any question at any time anybody has. Whit Klein violated no policy. He was told he could be fired for doing his job. And I understand that the administrator was basically urged to suspend him. I respectfully submit, as a citizen, that shouldn't have been done. And I guess I've had my say. Thank you so much for listening to me.
You said it was done on H.E. Corley and Irmo Elementary School and Veterans Park. Is that in the town of Irmo?
Oh, yes, sir.
It's in the town of Irmo?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
And all this work was done in conjunction with the Arbor Day Committee, right? Right. Which you guys have planted all these, bought all these trees and vegetation for? I just want to get clear in my mind exactly where it's going. Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to council on anything on the agenda?
Sure, go ahead.
Right.
Just name and address for the record.
Okay, I'm Glenn Davis. I live on Palmetto Wood Parkway. I guess I'm here representing myself and my wife and hopefully most of my neighbors, and there are a lot of my neighbors here.
Speak into that microphone right
Sure.
there.
And there are a lot of neighbors from the Palmetto Wood subdivision, which is directly across the park from the Veterans Park. I happen to be the nearest property owner to the new Veterans Park, directly across the street. It's the first thing I see every morning if I come out the front of my house. I'll wander just a little bit. My wife and I also own property that borders the new Irmo Town Park on Eastview. So I may flip back and forth a little bit. I'm really disappointed that we're not here tonight to see Whit Klein be given a letter of accommodation
I agree.
for the job that he's done. I would have really rather have seen him standing before the council with the mayor and a big smile on his face presenting him a letter of accommodation. If his job description does not say that as a department head he can represent the town in the preparation of grants, then it should be revised to say so. And that should go for any department head. And I'm assuming department heads report to the town manager. All right, that being said, I would like to say again to council, because I have said this before, the town of Irmo, I hope, is appreciative of the fact that we have an organization like the Irmo Arbor Committee that has contributed thousands of dollars and thousands of man hours to help beautify the town. Believe it or not. There are people in this world who, in the process of relocating for jobs and other things, actually look at towns to see what they have to offer. Irmo has, in my opinion, great schools, great location, and beautiful roadways, thanks to the Arbor Committee. I just don't understand what is wrong with that. We're looking a gift horse in the mouth and trying to kick them at the same time with this kind of activity. I guess as a property owner, I had only one of several options to look at with property that is adjacent to property my wife and I own. I moved to Palmetto Park knowing that the property across the street from me and adjacent to me is zoned for office, medical, whatever that designation is. I have no complaints. I am, however, thrilled that I now know across the street from my house we have a permanent green space that is a benefit to the town and to me. If I were looking to move in, you know, here's a park that you can take children to. Here's a park that honors the veterans of this town. I don't know if maybe now some veterans could be of the opinion that we're waffling, that somebody has a problem with that. I hope not. I hope we're not offending our veterans who have served and defend our right of free speech, as much sense as it may make or not make. So that was the options that I thought. I welcomed the park. My neighbors welcomed the park. I've not heard a soul say anything bad about the park, the Veterans Park. All I've heard is good things said about the town of Irmo, the grounds maintenance crew, and the Arbor Committee. The new Irmo Town Park on Eastview, I had a similar option to look at. Being a property owner adjacent to that property. I could have been faced with that land being zoned such that there could be 100 apartment units on it. There could be 50 or so, or whatever the zoning density regs would allow, townhouses. So the way I view it is, what would I rather have? A 14-acre permanent green space, maintained by the city, a place where you can take your children to play, you can go for a stroll and exercise, a place that we can have not only the annual event of the Oprah strike, but hopefully we would have some more summer in the park music things. Any number of activities that are a benefit to the town and the town's residents. So what choice would I take? Oh, I'll take the park. Because were it developed for residential use, then I would have every day, 7 days a week, the traffic for ever how many families live there. So to me, that was a fairly simple thing to be able to digest. I just don't understand. We travel a lot, and we go to a lot of venues. I'm not ashamed to, when I sign in, to put Irmo, South Carolina. It does stir up some conversations because a lot of people haven't heard of Irmo. But this is the kind of stuff that will make them hear about Irmo. And it's not the kinds of things that we want people to think about our community. I see Irmo as an upscale place to live. It's an ideal location. Has everything you want, is offered within a reasonable difference. I will have to agree with Ms. Moore's statement that I read in this paper last week. It's either help or get out the way and let progress take place. In spite of how much, as I grow older, I like to see things change less, the world will pass us by if we're not progressive. I've always considered this council a progressive council, this town a progressive town, particularly when it comes to taking advantage of grant money that will be given to somebody regardless. If Irmo had not taken the opportunity to get that $50,000, it wouldn't have been turned back into the general fund of the state of South Carolina. Government don't work that way. They would have spent it somewhere else. And fortunately for us, we have a town that knows to take advantage of those things. Unfortunately, for some towns, they don't even try. So, I guess that's pretty much what I want to say. From a mean-spirited kind of statement, though, you know, I thought about saying, you know, Irmo is not a redneck town, but if we keep reading stuff like this, it could very easily be considered a redneck town. I consider this redneck politics.
So I take it that your favorite is parked in your front yard, right? Is that true, Mr.? I take it your favorite is parked being built in your front yard.
You got it.
Okay.
And I favor the park. It borders 3 acres and a house my wife and I own on the East View. Alternative, while I may not be able to do anything about it, parks be the alternatives.
And I can assure you that I'm not a redneck.
You know, I don't think
anyone else who would like to address town council on any item on the agenda tonight?
Hey, my name's Rob DeBoer. I've never been to any one of these, and so I apologize for my attire. And I live at 316 Amberwood Circle. I have a wife, been married 17 years, 3 kids, 2 dogs, and a cat that hangs around.
Rob DeBoer, you play football?
A long time ago.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, and I'm the one from Nebraska that played baseball too. People always get me confused with Ryan Brewer. So, anyhow. Well, thank you. You're very kind. And so I just come from a different perspective. I can just say this. I probably don't read the papers enough. I'm just kind of a, put my hand to the plow kind of guy. But Whit Klein is my neighbor. My kids play with his kids, and we live in Irmo. My wife takes our Christmas card picture at some park out here every year. And I just wanted to come to hear what all the fuss was about. And all I can say is this, and when that man, who I've never met, when all he said was, there's nothing going on here but good. Sometimes we get so caught up in rules and regulations and we miss opportunities. And so if, in fact, what he is saying, then I'm proud to be in Irmo. And anything we can do to continue to upgrade any aspect of Irmo, I really appreciate it. I will say this, with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, I'm not used to seeing 6 people and 5 of them listen to the speaker and place their eyes on him when 95% of the time you're not even looking up. So I just think that says a lot. I think the community needs to be heard, and I think the respects of y'all, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And just for the record, I make a lot of notes, and it's hard for me to be looking and distracting, and also I just prefer to make my notes and keep up with stuff in that manner. But I understand what you're saying too.
Isn't the videotape? The media is videotape, right? The media is videotape, right?
Yeah, it's easy for me to make notes and watch it.
You can go back and look at the video if you missed something.
I wanted to, but I really
I'm just
just
curious, I mean,
each to own.
I'm just going to go back and look at the video.
Anyone else who would like to speak to council on anything that's on the agenda?
My name is Susan Hoots. I am married to Harvey Hoots. We live at 130 Bolters Lock Road here in Irmo. We moved here in 1974, and Old Friars Gate was not even a part of the town of Irmo, but we were glad to become a part the first chance we had an opportunity. And I just want to say, if you lived here in 1974, this town was, sorry, this town was nothing like it is now. It was just dirt everywhere. We had one grocery store, one pharmacy, and we have progressed, and now we are a beautiful town. We've always had a public service department, and they've always done the best they could. But until we got WIT, we did not have anybody that knew or had knowledge to make our town as beautiful as it is now. So I'm here to speak on WIT's behalf and say what a great job he does for this town. And if you have a chance to look at any pictures of what we looked like in 1974 and look at what we look like now, everybody owes a big thank you to WIT because he's responsible for that. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Judy Franchini and I live in Lexington, but I represent the families and the parents and the students and the teachers at H.E. Corley Elementary School at 1500 Chadford Road. And I'm here just to tell you thank you for your support for public schools in District 5 and tell you thank you for the support that you have given to H.E. Corley. And thanks to the Arbor Day Committee for their planned upgrade of the landscaping at our school. What they have scheduled to be done at our school is far greater than we could ever do ourselves. The plans are outstanding and we expect them to be beautiful. And again, it is not something that our PTO or our School Improvement Council or our parents could do on their own. But we are excited about the partnership between the Arbor Day Committee and H.E. Corley. We hope that everything turns out just as well as the plan is, and my hope and my prayer is that tonight the decision that you make will not impact the scheduled work that is planned for H.E. Corley. Thank you.
Second, let me ask Ms. Franchini, just 1 second. Do you think it will impact the neighborhood not just the school children, but the neighborhood as well?
Oh,
Which is
without
one
a
of my
doubt.
big concerns.
Once the school looks just beautiful, then everybody else wants their land, their farm, their yards, and everything else to look as good as our school.
That's what I think. I'm hoping so. Hope and pray so. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
My name is Robin Barker. I live at 130 Hexham Circle. I'm on the Arbor Day Committee. I'm also one of the people that started the old Friars Gate Civic Association. And the reason we started that was to beautify Old Friars Gate as part of Irmo. We saw some problems and we tried to make that better. Without WIT there to help us, without the Irmo Arbor Day, without the people of Irmo that came together, they don't even live in Old Friars Gate, came together to help us with projects we had in Old Friars Gate. Without that, we wouldn't be who we are. I just have to say, I don't know what the problem is. We have done so much good for Irmo. I've lived here 17 years, and what I see from Irmo now is far better than what I grew up with. The plants that have been planted, the trees that have been planted, the way that everything's kept up. I mean, I stayed in Irmo. There's a reason I stayed in Irmo, and I'm proud to say I live in Irmo. And I would be devastated. I'm sure half of Irmo, anybody that cares about Irmo, would be devastated to see WIT go or not be a part of beautifying Irmo. So I just wanted to say I don't see what the problem is. I see that all good has been made. And I guess I had noticed the eye contact too, Mr. Mayor. I think that maybe what he was saying was we like to know that we're being heard. And I just, when we know that y'all are looking at us, we know we're being heard. It's a very important meeting, and so we just, we want to know we're being heard. Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to address council?
Hey, sir. My name is Chad Neighbors. It's actually Staff Sergeant Chad Neighbors. I've been a resident of this town for about 15 years. And I've had a lot of pride in this town. I've deployed to two wars, Iraq and Afghanistan. And I'm sure I'm not the only veteran in this room, but my pride in this town has been amazing, from laying under a desert sky and hearing bombs, and then bombs go off and explain, hey, my son's ritual at Friars Gate Park. Or laying in a foxhole in the middle of Iraq beside someone making fun of me because I'm trying to explain what the world of okra strut is, And when I come home, a good friend of mine from years back, went to college with family members, Jake Moore, is telling me what good things, I see the community, I see it developing, I see the beautification happening. And a little maturity, I want to be a part of it. And Jake's telling my kids go to H.E. Corley, and he's telling me what we're doing. And then he tells me about the Veteran Park, and that's when, that pride comes back. And then he tells me how that Veteran Park happened, and what WIT was able to do. And then I didn't even expect to speak. I didn't want to speak, but I'm sitting there and I feel that pride kind of slipping away, that we got to sit here and to defend ourselves and defend the actions of what happens to make a Veterans Park. Come on. I mean, the veterans of this community, and there's a lot of them, they're owed that park. And I appreciate it, personally, from the bottom of my heart. So I don't want to ramble on, but goodness, really? I appreciate it.
My name is Irvin Ott. I've been a realtor here in the Columbia area for 48 years. I have a son-in-law who is a lieutenant colonel, retired Marine. I have an active duty grandson, active Army at the present time. I have my granddaughter is married to he's in the Air Force. I don't know what his I don't know what his rank is, but he's been in there for 12 years. I don't know exactly what that is, but I moved to Irmo in March of this year, and I love it, and we appreciate the park. It's been an uplifting thing for us, and talking to the gentleman that was running I live in Palmetto Park, by the way. I forgot to tell you that. I'm number 37 Palmetto Parkway, and the gentleman was telling me about how they had got support from Jake Moore in the Arbor Day Committee to do the Veterans Park. I have a brother-in-law that passed away this year, was a veteran. I went to his funeral, and they had a really nice funeral for him. And we just thank you for the park, and thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Corley. I live on Bush River Road. I was called and invited to the last meeting. I knew not what it was about. After getting some information, and I was called this afternoon to attend this one. I would like to say to the town council, what we need to do is see, I know cloning is not in effect, but to see if there's anyone closely related to Mr. Moore or Mr. Klein. I find it amazing that so much to do can be made about two human beings, so much time and energy spent indicating and insinuating something negative because two human beings got up, were proactive, did within evidently the legal guidelines what it takes to get something done. And they did something that's truly amazing in this day and time. They exhibited common sense. Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to address council?
I would like to just add a comment. If anybody can't hear me from here, let me know. I would like to invite the naysayers to start their presentations or comments to the newspapers or wherever they're speaking to tell us first what you've done for the community of Irmo. Tell me first how many hours of man-hours work you've volunteered. Tell me first how much you've donated to better the town of Irmo. And then I will hear you a lot clearer. I just read an article before I left to come here. There's Mr. Paulson in New York just donated $100 million to the Central Park Fund. Now that's the kind of community spirit we're looking for. It's really easy for anybody, and I enjoy it just as much, to sit back on Monday morning and quarterback the Sunday game.
Name's Rodney Muller. I live on Chadford Road, New Friars Gate. Same street H.E. Corley's on. Me and my wife have a a daycare right around the corner here, the old Fantasy Island. We used to run a daycare on Nursery Road, and that's where I met Mr. Jake Moore and Miss Linda Byers. I have lived in Irmo for over 20 years. I've raised all 4 of my daughters. All of them went to H.E. Corley. I have 5 grandchildren now who are, with the exception of 1 in Florida, who are being raised in Irmo. When I met Miss Byers, at that particular time I was a police officer for about 20 years. And she stopped by the daycare. She gave us flowers to help beautify the daycare. She's also outstanding on, she used to scare me half to death because she would be on Nursery Road where there's no sidewalks, picking up paper, stopping by. Even if she saw some trash on the ground on our daycare property, she would pick it up. She's even given us flowers at the daycare we're at now. Nothing to do with the situation that's going on tonight. I don't even know Mr. Witt, but I know beauty when I see it. My children have complimented on, they've told me how nice Irmo looked. I'm also a resident that's been around long enough before there was Harvesting Boulevard, before H.E. Corley was up and all that other good stuff. And I noticed the difference. I don't have a green thumb. I'm from Indiana, okay? I'm from basically a concrete jungle. I only know Irmo for the okra and for the pretty flowers. It's a pleasant town to raise your children in. I also agree it's not a redneck town, you know. So I think I can say that a little bit better than but you know, just being serious, it's just, from me on the outside looking in, you know, meeting Mr. Moore, Miss Byers, and just, it almost seems like I said, from the outside looking in, because I don't know a whole bunch of what's going on, but it's almost seemed like a person is being persecuted for just trying to make something beautiful. You know, that's all.
Sorry, I wanted to add one thing to a comment that he just made with the naysayers. My comment is, I guess, if we took a poll and the people that have a problem with the park, can we find out how many of them have gone to the park, have stepped foot on that park, who have put some of their own sweat into that park, or even if they haven't even helped with the park, if they've gone to the park, if there's a problem with it, what is their problem? What's the problem? What is there, would they rather be dirt or a building, or is it okay to have grass there and a park and something to honor? The naysayers, I just like to know that, but that's my only point with that.
Good evening, council. How are you? My name is Randy Phillips. I live at 43 Palmetto Wood Court, across the street from the park. I had no idea what was happening here, and I got a little note in my mailbox about the meeting and about the park. I am a redneck. I'm a river rat from Olympia. So I grew up a long time. I'm from here. And I can't tell you how I used to look up to the people from Irmo, because this is where it was had. You know, this is a good place to be. I live here now. I'm very proud that I live here now. And I get up in the mornings, I like to work out. I've been to the park. I've used the machines at the park. It's a great place. It's good. Everybody in here needs to go to that park. We all need to do that. In the mornings when I go to the gym, I see people running on the sidewalk here. And I'm assuming that Mr. Witt had something to do with that. Thank you. I've run on that sidewalk. This is a beautiful town. And if everything I'm hearing said is true, I don't understand why we're here.
Thank you.
I just don't understand. If no laws have been broken, then thank you for what you've done. Thank you for what you've done. Please do more. That's it. Thank you.
I just want to ask one final thing. What is the problem? The accusation has been made that the grant, the $50,000 grant that we received to build a park, the accusation has been made that this was done illegally, that there was some fraud involved in getting this money. That's what the problem is. That's what we're here to address tonight. And that's what we're talking about in a meeting later on.
So we'll hear specifically what is the problem.
Yes, you will.
Or
Tonight you
we'll
will
hear
hear
that
specifically
there's
what the
just
problem
ain't nothing
was.
to it.
You will hear specifically what the problem was. Here's the documents here on hand to look at. I don't know if you got a copy out there, but we will hear specifically what the problem was and specifically what the actions that were taken that we did, that the council took. That's why you're here tonight, is there was a problem. There was an accusation made that we secured a $50,000 grant to work on the park, and that was done illegally or mischievously, or however, whatever that word Mr. Donald wanted to use. It was done bad, so that's why we're here. Thank you.
Anyone else to address the council?
Hello, council. I guess y'all know me. I'm Lem Holtzclaw from 100 Lordship Lane. And I do volunteer. I sit on the Zoning Board of Appeals. I've been doing that for 17 years. What I'm hearing now is that what a lot of people may not understand is that we have a land use management guidelines that we want to see what this town looks like in 10 to 15, 20 years from now.
Comprehensive plan.
Comprehensive plan, thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. The forefathers to this council member put it together. Most towns do it. And it is a guideline of what we want this town to look like in 10 to 15 to 20 years. And when I first got involved with this, 15, 20 years down the road, I've been in town 17 years now. I didn't think it was going to be this close. Okay? My big concern is I live in Lordship Lane in Old Friars Gate, and there's been an ongoing battle about adding gas pumps to general commercial, because once a piece of property becomes commercial, it then can be anything in the commercial realm at that point. The comprehensive plan was put in place to beautify Irmo and make sure that we did protect the property values of the homes. Okay? And I think the reason for that is because without the homeowners having good property values, the businesses will leave. Prime example, Two Knots Road. They had no protection for the homeowners, and their property values sunk, and then the businesses left. They all went out to Sandhill. We don't want that to happen to Irmo. Okay? So I'm a big advocate of making sure that we do not change, do not add gas pumps in a neighborhood residential area, and that is on the agenda. Okay? It has gone to court. He lost his day in court. He cannot put them on there by court. So we don't need to change that on a council member. And that's why I'm here tonight. When this thing first came to light, this room is filled tonight, but we had to move it to the cafeteria at the elementary school because there's that many people involved with it. And I think, Paul, you might have been a council member at that point. I can't remember. But that was some 15, 20 years ago. So I appreciate y'all's time and your effort. Please work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to address council on anything on the agenda tonight? Being none, we will move to new business. And the first item on the new business is amendment to ordinance 1216. And Mr. Walker, it looks like you placed that on there. I'll let you start.
Yeah, I made an amendment to ordinance 1216. I'd like to withdraw my amendment, and if I can get it.
I think I seconded that
motion when you made the amendment, and I will withdraw my motion.
All right, so there's been a motion to withdraw the amendment by Mr. Councilman Walker,
Yes.
Councilman Hoots. Is there a second? And I guess we need a second, do we, or do we have to, or just?
No,
Okay. So we just vote on it, and that's it? All in favor of removing or withdrawing the amendment, do so with show of hands. And just for the record, for the public, we have a ordinance 1216, which we are changing our business license from using the what's called the SIC code, which is the Standard Industrialization Classification Code, to the new code, which is the NAICS code. And we had made an amendment to that, and we took that amendment off, kind of in reference to Liam. The one thing that we added on there is now off. Now, there is still another motion that we'll be voting on November something 20th. But at least that was back to kind of square one. Next item on the agenda is the approval of a contract with Grimble, Cotterill and Associates in the amount of $119,000. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
And is there any discussion?
Well, I made the motion. This is in preparation for the new town park that has been mentioned here tonight, not the Veterans Park, but the 14.4 acres that's over off of Eastview. The total amount, and Mr. Grimble is here, Morgan Grimble is our landscape architect that is going to be responsible for laying out a design for us for this park. Just so some of you will know, Morgan, I can't remember how many years ago, but he's responsible for the design in the park across the street. And I think we have to back up to no one for that park. It's absolutely beautiful. There are certain things that have been going on over the last weeks and months in preparation for the new park. We're at a stage now where Mr. Grimble needs to work with electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, hydrologists to make sure that this park will be equally as beautiful as the one across the street and everything done properly. And this is the next step for us in allowing them to get the permits and put things out to bid. Have I misstated anything?
No, you're right on the money.
Just so that everyone knows, we're not just offering to give him $119,000 because he's a nice guy.
And if I'm remembering correctly, once we move from here, and they do the plans and all that, and then probably January, something to that effect, we get the.
He may come back in December just to show council before he bids it out.
So he'll come back and then bid it out, and then in January or something, we'll get the, take the cost bids back.
Take the bids in.
And then we'll vote on that to move forward or not. Any other discussion?
It's pretty straightforward to me.
I have a couple of questions for you. And this is Mr. Grimble, on your contract, now you might not have a copy in front of you, but your contract, section 1B, the construction documents,
Yes, sir.
you have on there, you will develop construction document plans, specifications, blah, 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 for the park, and you have any water systems. Now, water systems meaning the well or public, I mean, we talked about having well systems, drilling wells.
Yeah, I think I stayed on their utilities.
You do?
says water systems.
It's the water system, it's the wells.
Is it wells?
It's
Is
the
that what it is?
That's our thought, yeah.
Yeah, we're not gonna tie into the city of Columbia water, is what I'm getting at.
No,
We plan on getting our own separate water system
right.
out there. Okay.
We'll have both water for irrigation and potable water as well.
Right, from a well.
Okay.
That's the,
I think that was the question.
that's the intent.
Yeah.
All right. So that's well systems we're talking about. All right, section 2, professional fees. This is the negotiating part of this contract, right? Now, we have agreed to pay you a sizable amount of money. And on this section 2C, you have a fee for bidding services, should be a lump sum of $5,000. Now,
Right.
let me get this straight. You're gonna charge us $5,000 to bid out this contract?
That's my intent.
Well, hold on now. All you're doing is saying, here guys, come and look at these plans and bid them out, and you're gonna charge us $5,000 to do that?
Well, there's a lot more to it than that, but basically, based on an AIA, which is American Institute of Architects form, what I go by is what percentages to charge. Like construction documents are 40% of the fee. Schematics are 20%. Bidding is typically 5% of the fee. So I based it on that. Will it cost me that much? Maybe not. Will schematics cost me more? Maybe. I mean, I think that $5,000 is, you know, it's something that is probably highlighted and it stands out. But that's a normal and customary fee for bidding. And we would have pre-bid meetings. There's a lot of interaction. There's a lot of submitting documents. There's a lot of answering questions. My consultants have to be paid out of that. I don't get the 5. I get a portion of that.
Well, I mean, it says here, and that's fine, but it says here you have a fee for the contract, site observation and contract administration of $24,000.
Yes,
So,
sir.
isn't that part of that fee for bidding out the services? Isn't that part of that the same?
No, sir.
Oh, it's not?
No, basically, the contract's broken into master planning, schematics, design development, construction documents, bidding, and administration.
Okay.
That's a typical AIA contract. And so the observation or the contract administration would be coming out here on a regular basis, checking on the work, checking on different kind of aspects, having my consultants come out, check on the work, preparing pay requests, approving all pay requests with your approval, approving all change orders with your approval. So that's contract administration, and it lasts, you know, I'm suggesting on this particular project, 6 months. Closeout documents, I mean, final permit documentation. I mean,
Okay, so, and that's, all these are fine, I'm just trying to understand.
Sure.
For my own cross knowledge.
Right. I mean, I do this every day, so I can,
Okay.
it's normal to me.
So then, by us agreeing to this fee and to these different parts of the fee schedule.
Design, right.
Design schedule, you agree that you will have all this completed by December 15th, 2012, right?
Except the permitting, which I have no real control over. So I hope to have the permitting by that time, but probably more like the 1st of January.
January 1?
January 1. But again, we're going to do our best and submit, and we've already met with the Corps engineers, and they've given us preliminary approval.
Right.
But I have no control over permits.
But my thing is that the end game, the end date, in my mind, is August 2013. And so when you see that end date of August 2013,
Yes.
by you having this Corps of Engineers contractual okay and blessing
Right.
by the 1st of January, does that give you enough time to accomplish that end game by the
Yeah.
August 13th date?
I believe it does, certainly.
You know, no matter if it snows every day and...
No. Under normal circumstances,
Okay.
I suggest that it can be done on that time frame.
Uh-huh.
If it snows every day, or if the contractor goes broke, or if they run into 10 springs digging or something like that. But under normal construction procedures, I think that, yeah, we can have that done by then.
So do we have to, do we put a due diligence on your contract, or do we put a due diligence on the actual bid contracts for the other pieces?
That'll be with whoever receives the
That-
bid, we give them a notice.
That's
Either
typically-
The contract will have liquidated damages in their contract.
Okay, liquidated damages
And we
on
would give them
the
a
actual
certain-
pieces.
Correct, I mean, we would give them a time frame, and you're looking at, council approves the end of January, they start early February.
I didn't say it was January. I said January 1st.
Council doesn't meet until like the 18th of January.
But he didn't say that. He said he'd get it done by January 1st.
Now, that doesn't include bidding.
Correct.
That includes the plans and permits. Certainly, we don't want to bid during Christmas. That's always been a bad time to try to solicit bids. But if the plans and specs and permits are ready to go by the end of this year, then I would suggest we would advertise and bid the project the first of the year. We would then take, you would take bids. Typically, it's based on the low bid, and then you would award a contract.
But that should be by the end of January. At the
Yes.
latest.
It should be, yes.
Your bid period shouldn't be more than 30 days. is what I'm
Right.
saying.
That's exactly right. That's a typical bid period. It could be 21 days, but
21, okay.
it's better to have probably 30.
All right. So by signing, if we agree to sign this contract tonight for this amount, you can almost quasi guarantee me that by January 31st, the bids will be out there, and we'll be starting to get back bids from people who bid on different pieces of the park.
Yes, that's
And
my.
all your stuff will be done.
Yes,
I
that's.
won't be waiting on any Corps of Engineers,
Well,
anything. I won't be waiting on.
I hope not.
I won't be waiting on the sun to come up in the east and anything like that.
No, but he will tell you if we have a snowstorm.
Okay.
That's my intent.
Yeah.
Certainly, the construction process is a fluid process at best. But
I
that's
understand that,
that's
but I
not.
got static August 15th, you know.
Yes, and
I mean, I understand that, and that's fine.
that's the intent, and I feel like that the scope of the project can be done by that day.
Okay.
You know, that's what you're asking for, and that's what I'm presenting.
One question I wanted to ask is, as far as what you were mentioning, you said you had a static August 15th date. What is that?
In other words, I suspect that we should be able to move into the park, if not by August 15th, by August 30th of 2013.
So what I'm hearing too is that if we're capable of getting a grant, a $500,000 grant to help pay for the park, but it requires us to wait until that window opens, then you wouldn't be voting for that delay.
I said that we need to be through by this park by August 15th, 2013.
But you don't want to get the grant.
I didn't say that. I said that we need to be, Morgan Grimble, the company, to be ready by the 30th of January for everything they need to have done, so that by August 15th, we're ready to move into the park.
So if a grant is available in January of 2014, then you're not willing to wait so that we can get the $500,000
I
grant.
have no idea about a grant. You have a grant available to us?
I think Bob's mentioned that we can probably apply for one in January of 2014. Is that
Window
windows?
they do open, it's every 2-year grant.
Every 2 years.
Yeah.
that's not the only grants that's out there.
Obviously not, but I mean,
Probably the only one for that amount.
we're gonna address financing this a little bit later on in the meeting, but, you know, that's fine. If there's one available in that time frame, let's go for it. If there's not one, I don't want to slow down the process or stop the process of completion by the August date.
I appreciate you, Dave, but I appreciate what he does too. And we have to listen. I don't want to do anything precipitously or without the right foundation, because we'll regret it in the end.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think we can do both.
You do both?
Yeah. We listen to him.
You mean getting the grant in? get it
No,
done?
I'm just talking about getting to January.
Oh,
I'm only getting to January.
And I've got to hustle to get these drawings done. I mean,
Well, I'm giving you 119,000 reasons to hustle.
Okay.
No, I understand. I just want to be clear so that, you know, January we can see something happen, you know, and that's all. I just want to make sure we're clear. If there's anything that,
I'm very clear with that.
if anything we need to do to make sure that it happens from us, if we have to walk papers to Corps of Engineers, let us know. We'll walk them.
Okay.
Or we'll get Wick to drive them over there. He's got to do it.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll keep him on his blood pressure medicine too.
I do. I count on y'all's help in this. I mean, it's not just me, it's everybody.
We'll be pestering you.
Any other? And the only thing I want to add just for the record before we vote is that based on what I'm understanding at this moment, the park is going to run somewhere in the $1.4 billion, $1.3 billion, something of that category.
That is the master plan estimate, and obviously when we start the schematic in the contract document phase, the information will be more defined, and we'll be able to give you a more exact cost estimate. Obviously, it's a estimate, and bids are, you know, hopefully our estimate is in the middle, and there's some higher and there's some lower. That's our hope. But we will redefine the estimate and the scope as the contract documents are developed. So I'll be meeting with you guys and telling you, here's what the new estimate is, and there's all kind of questions, and I will need your help to answer those in a timely manner.
And what I want to say is, you know, I think the park is a good thing for the town. I think there's been some discussion about this and that and the other. But based on my comments last year that we were going to spend somewhere between $1 million and $1.5 million, and based on the estimate that Hybrid Engineering gave us and the one that we've had recently, I'm still estimating the park to be somewhere between $1 million and $1.5 million. Plus we've spent $200-300 already on buying the land and clearing the land and grubbing it and everything else. That we'll be pushing 1.5. In my opinion, that's too much at this time for a park. Something that we can also use the orchestra as we did for another year here, wait for a grant to get $500,000 and help eliminate some of the town's investment in it. And based on that, you know, I'm just not going to vote for any other expenses with the park because I think it's all going to lead to $1.5 million, which I think that's more than what we need to be spending at the time, especially out of our reserve. If we were going to get the matching $500,000 grant, I think I'd be more on board with it. But since it sounds like we're not going to wait, then I just have to vote no against the rest of it. Even though I think what we're doing here is the best thing we ought to do is get the figures, get the prices, and then look at it again. If I'm incorrect and the price is lower, and we wait on the grant and we can spend less than $500,000 or $700,000, I might change my vote at the end. But for right now, that's where I'll stand.
So you feel like the park is a waste of time, we shouldn't do it because we might spend $1 million, $1.5 million?
I don't think we need to spend $1.5 million on a park right now.
I don't know how you get to $1.5 million. He gave us a quote of $1.2 million.
And we spent $200,000, $230,000 for the land, and we
So
spent
that's $1 million.
$35,000.
So that's down to $1 million now.
We're close to about 1.5. So anyway, that's my, I said $1 million, $1.5 million. Everybody else said, no, we wouldn't spend that much. It looks like we'll spend that much, so that's where I stand. Any other comment?
I hate to say this, the math doesn't add up, man. You said $1.5 million. He said it's 1.3, so how do we get to $1.5 million?
Just because I said what I said.
Oh, because you said, okay.
We spent $230 for the land, we spent $30 clearing it, we spent something grubbing it,
But
we
he
spent something.
he
So
said
it
it's an
is so
estimate.
close.
It's an estimate, it may
Well,
come in higher, it may come in lower.
I said last year, based on a notepad that I figured up everything we were talking about, it was gonna cost $20 million, $1.5 million. Y'all said I was crazy, didn't know what I'm talking about, and then it came back. Everybody said between $1 million, $1.5 million, so I'm just sticking with that, and we're ready to vote. All in favor of awarding the contract for $119,000, do so with show of hands. All opposed? Next item on the agenda is discussion of the PRT grant awarded to the town. And Mr. Walker, I think you asked that to be on the agenda.
I did, and,
Thank you all. Appreciate your vote of confidence. Thank you.
Can I give some background first?
please.
Because I listened to the tapes, and I think I deserve a gold star, right, Kim? For listening to tapes from March and April of this year pertaining to Veterans Park, the grant, all number matter. They're very difficult, so I commend you every time you do word for word because it's tough. The last meeting in March and the first week meeting in April, we discussed taking Veterans Park as your gift for a variety of reasons. At the meeting in the end of March, Senator Jake Knott stood here under presentation by citizens and said, I'm going to help y'all with your park. It was very clear what he was talking about because he said PRT funds and the whole thing. So we all knew that because we were standing here listening to him. In April, when you brought the park before us to deed it to us, and we voted on it, I have the exact mark on that tape which I sent to Bob where we voted to accept it at that time, right after the vote. You said, you know, we should be finished by June or July with the town's help and Whit's help. So we were all sitting here, we all heard it. There was nothing secretive that Whit was going to help to get the park ready by June, and that was first meeting in April. Then we went into a discussion about the grant, where it came from, what it was about, how it had to be accounted for line by line, which Bob and Kim have done, the importance of the money, the fact that it needed to go through the town needed to disperse it, the whole thing. And none of this was secret. I mean, we were all sitting here listening, nodding our heads. We knew what he was talking about. Now, I realized we didn't vote on certain items, but when we voted on accepting that park, at that point, I believe we have something like a contractual right to ownership of that park. So from then on, it would have been our responsibility to take care of it. I don't see anything secretive. I read Mr. Donovan's letter very seriously twice. And it wasn't an open meeting. Maybe it was not done exactly the way he wanted it done or whatever. But we've been above board on it, to my knowledge, everything I know. And we've certainly been above board on the checks and the accounting. We can tell you exactly where the money went and what for. So you need to know that. We've been involved with this since March and April. And if anybody wants to listen to it, it's all on tape. I just wanted to start with that and go ahead.
What we have here is a situation where a citizen in the town has a problem with the grant process. He does not like the fact that grants are out there available to people. He doesn't like the fact that we applied for a grant. A grant is not a loan. A grant is simply money given to another person or entity. In our case, it's given to the municipality in the auspices that you are doing something with that grant, specifically building a park with exercise equipment and walking trails. The person in question does not like the whole grant process. He feels like he's taking tax money from one person and giving it to another. And he wants that dismantled. I told him in so many emails that if he wants to dismantle the grant process, he needs to go to Washington, D.C. and do that through the auspices of Congress, not the auspices of the Irmo Town Council, because it is what it is, and if we didn't take advantage of the grant, certainly Chapin, City of Columbia, Casey, or Lexington, they would have gotten an opportunity to take advantage of the grant. There was a problem in the mechanics of how we actually received it, and Mr. Moore so eloquently intimated to us how the process was. He had a phone call, said we have money available, but we have to do it today. We couldn't do it. We couldn't wait for a council meeting to happen, which we meet on the first and third Tuesdays of the month. We couldn't wait for that process to happen through a council meeting. So some decisions had to be made right then and there. If we're going to apply for this $50,000 grant, we need to put the paperwork in now to do it. I understand that process. Where the problem came in, or the perceived problem came in, is that the grants cannot be given to a private 501c3 entity. It has to be given to a municipality, which the municipality in question is the town of Irmo. Now, I don't know about y'all, but if somebody's going to give me $50,000 and say that all you have to do is change the name from Barry Walker to the town of Irmo, and you can receive this money free and clear, guess what happens? It gets changed. And that's specifically what Mr. Klein did. He changed it from Irmo Arbor Day to the town of Irmo. And being a town employee, as a matter of fact, being a director of our Parks and Recreation, he may not have had the authority to do that. So shame on you, Whit, for exercising your right as a town employee in securing a $50,000 grant from the PRT fund for the town of Irmo. Shame on you. You've been admonished. On the other hand, for that to happen and for that to be done, you have received in return a beautiful park in front of Palmetto Park. And I don't think, and a person over in that subdivision has said up here, said, we did not want you to spend $50,000 of grant money from some other taxpayer, from some other fund that somebody paid into, that Irmo got to beautify some 3 acres of land in front of your subdivision. I don't think there's not a person over there that doesn't like that to happen. And for that person to be publicly, threatened with job termination because you took the initiative to go ahead and make a change to a document that you know in good faith, well, that the council would have voted to do it anyway. It just goes beyond me. It's beyond me as a taxpayer. It's beyond me as an Irmo resident. It's beyond me as a councilor in the town of Irmo that you would have took the initiative to do that. Now, I understand you may have violated some protocol, okay? And like I've already publicly admonished you for violating public protocol, for doing it. And I understand that, Mr. Donnelly might have a problem with the fact that you got a $50,000 grant to build a park. And I understand that Jake may have said, out of the zeal of him able to get this thing to happen. Think about it, folks. We got 3 acres of land for free. We got $50,000 to build the park. We got a gazebo that's going to be built on the park for free. We got benches that are going to be donated throughout the city into the park. We got a walking trail, and God knows we got exercise equipment, which I need to take advantage of, in the park. And all this has come to the town at the cost of $0 for the town coffers. Now, we did ask the town, now that you own this park town, we want you to go over there and we want you to cut the grass, and we want you to make sure that you pick the garbage up, and we want you to make sure that when you install this equipment, you know, if you can save us $5,000 or $10,000 from a fee from the vendor who sold this equipment, if you can do it, so be it. Go over there and take them over there and do it. Save us that $5,000. And yeah, it did cost you some man hours, maybe what, $5,000 or $6,000 man hours. I don't know what ridiculous price that they put on it. You guys make $100 an hour anyway, so whatever y'all made, it costs us that amount of money. But I am proud to say that that's $10,000 if it costs that much, well spent for a park that we got for how much now? $0. And I don't have a problem. I'm not trying to talk for the rest of the council, but I don't think there's a councilman up here, maybe one up here, that does not have a problem with spending $10,000 of town money for beautification to maintain a park that was basically given to us. Basically given to us. And yeah, it cost us some hours of labor and it cost us, you know, some man hours of time, and yeah, we spent some time talking about it, but we had an Arbor Day committee that has donated thousands of dollars worth of vegetation, trees, thousands of dollars worth of money to do this stuff. And all they asked us to do is to plant it and maintain it. Now, come on, folks. How in the world do you take that and say to somebody, you're going to be terminated because you took the initiative or the onus to go ahead and fix the documents the proper way so that we can secure the money? So that's the #1 bottom line with this whole situation. And if Mr. whoever is upset with the grant process and upset that Irmo got this money, so be it. I'm sorry he's upset. Tell him, you know, I think, what, Joe Wilson seats up in a couple of years, right? He can run for council. He can run for Congress.
Any other discussion?
Well, I would like to echo what you said. I think the town does owe it a debt of gratitude in making sure that we did not lose this money, that the Arbor Day Committee, Senator Knotts and Jake Moore so diligently worked on to get. I don't see anything wrong with it. You know, Mr. Donlin has a very slanted and view of how things are done. What was read here tonight was just totally riddled with innuendos, errors, and just downright untruths. That's his opinion, and he's entitled to that. And when I've been in charge of saying the Pledge of Allegiance and asking grace before this council, I have asked that we be cognizant of the fact that we have a right to stand up here and say what we think. But it doesn't mean you have to be totally right, and he's not. And if he has a problem with that, I echo what our town attorney has said. As a citizen, bring it, we'll address it, and we'll let a court decide it. Again, we are looking forward to a dedication of the Irmo Arbor Day Committee Veterans Park on Veterans Day, November 12th at 2:15 p.m. Be there or be square.
Any other comment?
Oh, I will say, in addition, I think, Kathy, you ought to be commended for listening to the tapes over and over and over again and you're absolutely correct. We did discuss it. We have always supported doing work in the town. We have never worried about having to get permission to go do something in the town. We have even worked outside of the town to make things beautiful. We have planted trees in the city of Columbia's park. We have planted trees. We have cut grass in the quadrants of the interstate that belong to the city of Columbia. We have sold trees. The Arbor Day Committee has sold trees to individuals and agreed that Whit and his team would go plant them on private property. We have done that over and over again. And I want H.E. Corley to know that I'm in full support, and I think the majority of council will be in full support tonight to see that the work at H.E. Corley goes on without a hitch.
Just one thing. I was real concerned when people start talking about us abusing the open meeting law or whatever. I don't think we have.
No.
I think we pretty much talk about everything. And if you don't believe it, you listen to those tapes. I mean, they're 3 hours long. But we do. We discuss everything. It can't all be put in the minutes. It'd be volumes. But I'm unaware of secret meetings or of any agreements that were secret.
Well, Mr. Donovan, in his diatribe that has been sent to us through emails or either read here tonight, seems to think that if I call up Senator Knotts to ask him something, that I should make that public. He's absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
There are many conversations that go on where we try to do the town's business. That's what we were elected to do. Not to publish every telephone call I receive or every telephone call I make on behalf of the town. It's absolutely ludicrous. And that's the kind of spin he has put on things. And he doesn't have the nerve to come here and say it.
I think, Jake, you asked for some direction. You want to understand from council
I have
where.
I think we got to
hold on a
finish
second.
that first.
I want to add to what I was saying. You wanted some direction tonight of where council feels Whit's obligations were to you. And I suspect you will get that by the end of this conversation. And I will be clear to you, and I'd like to, at the end of this, put it to a vote, but we'll put it to a vote exactly how much, which people can contribute to your efforts.
Thank you very much. Now, I was moved tonight by all those folks that complimented Whit on his skills and abilities. Whit, you are truly an asset to this town. This contract is I think is null and void. And as far as any wrongdoing, there was no wrongdoing. We should thank you, and I actually think we ought to even have a resolution and honor Whit Klein for his fine work, because I do believe an employee. He has actually gone the extra mile. That's what we want in employees. And I do thank you. You do a great job in the town of Irmo. We thank you very much.
I'm going to make a few comments myself. I do agree, Mr. Klein, you do a wonderful job for the town. I think our Public Works Department, I also agree that our Administrative Department and our Police Department all do a wonderful job. I think we're very blessed as a town to have a very good staff in all departments throughout our town. And I'm going to say something on behalf of Mr. Don, and I'm not speaking on behalf of him because I'm not him. But I think what he was saying in here, and I'm not 100% sure of the open meeting laws, you're right, I don't think we as a town has decided something that we should have. I think what he is asking, and has asked from day one, is when did we as a town decide to do it? That night you're talking about, we decided to accept the land, and we decided to accept the money, and we decided to spend it on the park appropriately, and all the things that are on there. I don't think that was in question. I think what he was questioning is, when he asked who applied for it, and we said we didn't, we didn't know. And then as it turned out, we did. I think that's where he's asking is when did these individuals meet, whoever they may be, and decide that they should move forward. Mr. Moore just mentioned that, and I'm not sure what your 100% terms were, but yeah, you had maybe did something with so still, whatever it was, as far as when you told whoever that to get the grant and all that. I'm not sure exactly what you're saying there, but could that affect? I think that's where the question came in, was who knew about it, when did they know about it, and why didn't they tell everybody else about it? And I think that's the problem that I think he has, because he has Mr. Brown in the FOI.
Tell everybody about what? I'm listening.
I'm talking and I'll finish. I think he asked Mr. Brown in an FOI, did the town apply for that grant? And Mr. Brown said it was no, because he didn't know. And I think that's his concern is, well, when did somebody decide yes? If we didn't know, no. And I think that's partly what he's asking. I think some of the other stuff in there, that'll be up to him to resolve. But I think he is asking that we should look at it, decide was anything wrong, was it okay, was it not okay, what the deal was. The only question I have for Mr. Brown is, what is our grant policy? Unspoken, spoken, written, not written, what policy do we have as a town?
And we don't have a written policy. Anybody can apply for a grant as long as they're not committing the town of Irmo to funds, the taxpayer dollars.
But is that written?
No, it's not written.
So it's just an unwritten policy that, and that's the thing, I think that one thing we probably need to do is some of us have discussed, is try to figure out what our policy should be and put it in writing so that everyone knows instead of an unwritten, because I think from my understanding, that's been around for a long time. Is this breaking that?
When I saw this paperwork, Mr. Klein didn't violate any, he didn't commit the town to any money.
Okay. So, based on that, if Mr. Brown is fine with what our grant policy is, written and unwritten, I think that's the question we need to look at as a town down the road, is how do we maybe put that in writing and clarify it better. I've asked Mr. Brown in an email, I guess, this week, to look into that. It's just, what do other towns do? Do they have more formal, do they have written, do they have non-written, and that kind of information. I think a lot of this could have been avoided, because I think there was some times where Mr. Moore, you could have mentioned to us that you were aware of this grant, that y'all were applying for, that we ended up applying for. We would all known, and then we could have told whoever that we applied for.
At that point in time, the property belonged to the Arbor Day Committee. It wasn't any of your business. It was basically, as soon as we realized that y'all had to have the property in order to get the money, we came to you, told you to take the property, told you that you had to have the town in order to spend the money, told you that the grant came from the Department of Public PRT, and basically told you that we were expecting Wick to do work on the job. Y'all said, okay, all five of you voted in favor of it.
That part we all knew about. I think the part that he's asking or concerned about or talking about, and I know I have my same concerns too, is that we were never told that we applied for a grant and not Arbor.
Okay.
And if we had known that, then everybody would have known that. I think we're not on the same wavelength.
Mr. Donlin accuses all of us of not understanding the English language. I don't think he does, nor do I think he understands the calendar either. Because all of this took place in March. It came to us in April.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, April follows March.
Is it true these were expiring funds?
Oh, we were late, okay? When Jakey called me, he had found the money and told me that we were like 20 days late or so. He put me in connection with the guy who was the head of PRT. I couldn't even tell you the man's name.
Harris?
he said to me, look, Mr. Moore, you need to have the application down here today. I'm going, where do I get it? And I believe he told us we had to get offline, didn't he, Whit? Or do we have to go get it?
He emailed it to me.
He emailed it to Whit. He emailed it to Whit. We met over here at Whit's office and said, okay, Whit, you draw the lines and where are we going to put the trees? And we started drawing sidewalks and trees and exercise equipment and benches and gazebos and all kinds of things with that magic marker out in the woods. And we basically initially sent it in with the Arbor Day Committee making the application. He calls Whit back and said, it's got to be on behalf of the town. The town many times has asked for grant money to be spent on property that the town doesn't own. Classic example would be the Irmo interchange and the Broad River interchange. That land is actually not owned by the city, it's DOT property. But we applied for the grant to spend on the DOT property. There's nothing wrong with Wood applying for the grant to spend on property that's going to be for a public use. The only thing wrong with it, it doesn't comport with the state guidelines. When we learned that we had to comport with the state guidelines, that's when we basically said we got two choices. Send back the $50,000 and let the Arbor Day Committee do it over 2 years, or come to the town and see if they'll take it. That's when we came and said, look, we got this grant. Not only do we have a grant, we get a check. You know, this is going to be great. We can probably do the whole thing for $50,000 or close to it. And, you know, Arbor Day's got a little cash, and we do whatever we got to do. And I think everybody left that meeting just happy as we could be that we're going to have a park that costs us nothing. And I believe everybody left knowing that Whit and his crowd were going to do some of the work. I mean, all of you came by. I've seen of course, I spent about half my life while the park was being built, just riding by looking at it. I probably cost them several hours of work. But all of you came by as the work was being done. There wasn't any secret about who was out there doing the work. I think I talked to every single one of you out there on the scene while Whit's people were out there working. Nobody complained. But that's because we all knew that they were going to do the job from day one, as the tape basically shows. I don't understand this.
Well, I mean, again, on behalf of Mr. Donovan and anybody else that is concerned, I think, again, it goes back to that meeting where we knew we were taking the land, we knew we were taking the check, we knew we were getting all that. We just didn't know we had applied for the grant and not y'all.
I'd like to invite Mr. Donovan to come join us in the next Irmo trash pickup. We'll do it on St. Andrews Road probably in about the next 30 to 60 days.
And also, just for the record, I think the reason Mr. Pat Donovan is not here is he's already got a prior Tuesday engagement, because I've asked him multiple times myself to come, and he can't because of whatever that is.
Please relay to him that Mr. Moore is willing at any time not to speak legalese and talk to him.
So
does that constitute a fireable offense then? As you put it, Mr. Matthews?
I didn't put it that way. I asked, is it? And I think Mr. Brown, I think if I remember correctly, said no, or he didn't know, or whatever, I'm not sure.
You didn't put pressure on the fire hand? No pressure on Bob?
No. I told him he would make sure he does the right thing so that he knows something in the future. And then everything will be correct. Because if he doesn't do something today and he has to do it later, then anybody else that may get terminated at some point down the road would have the right to come back and say, hey, you know, blah, blah, blah. So just make sure he does what he needs to do. And I
Yes,
think
we will about, I didn't understand what
I
you
think
said.
you mentioned that you spoke with Scott Clinton, and he said the 2 day or whatever it was sufficient. So,
So wait a minute, don't gloss over that. You said the man was terminated, could be terminated because he went out and did
that is
this.
what I said, and I've already addressed it. I'm not going to keep addressing the same thing over.
Well, I didn't hear what you said.
Well,
I
I'm
want to
sorry,
hear what you
listen to the
said.
tape. So,
Anybody else understand what you said?
I didn't hear it.
I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it mumbling.
Swear again.
Louder.
I mean,
any other discussion?
I want to know why you want to terminate the guy for.
I didn't say I did.
You sat in Bob Brown.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
You did.
You sure
And you
did.
told him and said, you're gonna get yourself fired over this.
I said you could.
You said I was going to get fired over
You
this.
have a problem with the English language as well.
I don't think
You
so.
said that there, Whit was there, Bob was there.
We all heard it.
And you're out of line, I'm gonna ask you to sit down as well too.
I don't get my fair shake in this.
You had a time during presentation of citizens and towards the end of presentation of citizens, yes you do.
We can't hear you. Stop mumbling.
So my point is this, is that the man's job, reputation, has been here for what, 15 years working?
12 years.
12 years working for the town of Irmo, would lose his job because Donald said that there might have been some improprieties there of us receiving a $50,000 grant from the PRT. And that's what I understood you to say. So is that not true?
I've already answered that and said no.
We can't hear you.
What is the truth? And if that's not the truth, what's the truth?
I'm not gonna discuss anything else here about this. This is getting way out of line and just forget it.
Is it my turn now?
Out of line.
No, we're gonna move on.
No, because we're still on this agenda item.
No.
I'd like to hear from Whit.
Well, we can do that during presentation by citizens.
Absolutely not. I'm part of this discussion.
No, you're not. No, you're not. This is a town council discussion.
You let everybody else
This is not an employee
speak.
discussion. If we want to do that in executive session, we can go into executive session.
No.
We can do this in wide open. I'm all for having it here wide open.
That's fine. Then you can speak to these gentlemen all you want to, and ladies, that's fine.
Then speak.
Am I free to speak?
You're free to speak.
You're going to speak over the council because that is not a place for this to speak. No, this is not a time for you to speak. If you want to speak during presentation by citizens.
So I don't have anything to do with what you're talking about. Is that what you're telling me?
I don't know.
You've got to know. You're the mayor. You're in charge of this meeting.
And as a discussion of PRT grant, that's all we're discussing here.
And I signed the grant. So I can't be part of the discussion?
No, this is a council discussion.
I believe in a meeting I had with me, you, Mr. Hoots. You said that I could stand up at any point and talk in a council meeting. Is that correct, Mr. Hoots?
You sure did.
Executive session.
No, that's not what you said.
Yeah. That's
Harvey, you having a real hard time with the truth here, buddy.
Well, as your opinion, that's fine.
It's not just his opinion.
You weren't in the room either.
Why does it matter?
It doesn't
If
matter.
everybody that lives in this community is asking, why does it matter?
That's right.
It's out of order of the meeting.
No,
But
everybody.
if we are at the meeting and spend time to be here, we can change the meeting, can we not?
No, sir, you cannot.
But everyone is spoken.
Yes.
People have spoken.
You can see what's going on here.
It's out of line, it's out of order, but this is a council meeting, and this is what it is. This is
I
not
have-
a public
So I'll
hearing.
ask the question as a sitting councilman then. Well, you were privy to the meeting that they had, right?
Yes, sir, I
If
was.
I was in the meeting room and that would have constituted a quorum, is that
That
correct?
is correct.
So I had to stand
You
outside.
came and you were told to leave.
I was told to get out the meeting. Okay,
That's
so
right.
now during this discussion that you three had, did y'all not have a discussion on termination of an employee because of something that he did on his contract? Is that not what y'all
Because
had?
he held up and said, this is gonna get you fired.
Okay. So that's what my point is exactly. So by Wick taking the initiative to securing a $50,000 grant, a grant that could get him terminated, and the mayor threatening to fire him, and then because
That's an accusation, it is
well,
not true.
because
So,
the threat was made, and then Bob said that, well, I'm not terminating him, so you were threatening. Bob said, well, you will be terminated, or you will have the ability to
we
terminate
keep
anybody
making an
else.
assumption.
Is that right?
Didn't word it quite like that. I mean,
I'm paraphrasing because I wasn't in the meeting, y'all were there.
he simply said that if I didn't take action with wit, then I wouldn't be able to fire anybody else down the road. Nobody would respect my authority.
No. I said, if you didn't do what you're supposed to do, then that would be true, and you need to make sure you're doing the right thing, because this was your first experience in dealing with something like that, and you do it.
He did exactly what he was supposed to do and
Then
not
that's
listen
fine.
to you.
That's fine. So any other discussion?
I'm here to discuss it. Do I have the floor or not?
No. This is here for the council. If we want to go into executive session, we can. If we don't, then we move on. And you can speak during presentation by citizens. Item.
We'll be there in just a moment.
We'll just hold it, we'll be leaving it.
Item D, discussion of policy regulations, actions of town council dealing with personnel actions outside of formal meetings.
Yeah, I
Place
brought
that
this
on
up.
the agenda.
This is kind of in line with what we're talking about. We received communication from Zonlin, and then a council person goes and meets with the town hall and wants to take action, a personnel action. And we have no power to do that. It needs to be.
Have you read our town orders? And then credit section.
Have I read the town orders?
Yeah.
Did you ask the fire with?
Now, I'm asking if you read our town orders. We're talking about policy regulating actions of town council. Let me remind everyone that we as a town operate under what's called a council form of government. State law dictates all that stuff. Under section 232, all powers are vested in council. Council shall provide for the exercise of such powers and for the performance of all duties, obligations imposed on the town by law. 232, duties and responsibilities. Provide for the direction and supervision of the administration of all departments, offices, agencies of the town. Appoint, suspend, remove all municipal employees and appointed administrative officers. 234, duties and responsibilities of the mayor. Basically all the same. There is one in there that says number 5, working through the town administrator, the mayor shall ensure that the town departments and employees faithfully execute the laws and operate in efficient economical manner. When I was brought whatever was the copy of the grant, Mr. Bob Brown, our town administrator, pulled up in our parking lot to go over what he'd just been given earlier, and I told him I wanted to meet with him in the morning and meet with Mr. Clyde, so that we could find out what was going on and get to the bottom of it. And I think that's all within any council member's responsibility and power, and especially within the mayor, to do that. It also says the town administrator shall keep the council informed, provide the council with information guidance, and number 11, perform such other duties as required, but not restricted to serving as a zoning administrator, blah, blah, blah. In communication with the mayor, he shall relate to and communicate with the mayor and council on any problem, situation, condition, which is arise concerning the department or activity in the town, which was what he did.
He absolutely did that.
Right.
He called me, I know he called the others.
Yeah. So I think everything was done according to what our ordinance already says is supposed to be done. And as far as...
Yeah, but you had a private meeting with yourself, Councilman Hoots, and...
He didn't know I was gonna be there.
No.
Oh, really?
No.
So then this is, you had a
In fact,
private
when he
meeting?
walked in and saw me sitting there, he asked Bob to step out.
Yeah,
So
because
you
I
had
had
Have a
private
meeting with
set
Bob
up
out of my presence.
Okay.
I had something, and I think it's all within any council member's
That's right.
responsibility or
I agree.
authority to meet with anybody. I asked to meet with Mr. Brown. You were there, so I asked him to step outside so we could discuss some stuff privately. We did. We entered the meeting, we discussed our meeting, and we moved on. And we already have ordinances
Well-
that regulate that.
Let's
And these
just
are
paraphrase
state-
it.
These are state laws, not county laws. These are state laws that are set by the state because we are a council form of government. They dictate that all powers are vested in council. We can hire an administrator, but powers are still vested in council to do whatever.
Right, the item D is discussion of policy regulation of town council dealing with personnel actions outside of formal meetings. We've been doing it this way for, I know, 21 years that I've been on council. My recommendation is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Correct. And I think state law says the way it is, and the way the state law says, and there's not much to change. Any other discussion?
A lot to do without nothing.
And that's probably correct.
So let's bring it back to this council, let's bring it back to this document,
Let's finish this so we get the discussion. Can we do E now?
Were we through with D?
I think, are we through yet?
Well, I just want to make sure everybody's understanding what, that this document, the document that secured the $50,000 grant, was signed by Mr. Klein on behalf of the town of Irmo. And you guys, or the mayor, Bob Brown, and Harvey Hoots had a meeting to discuss terminating Mr. Witt.
That's incorrect.
Of this document.
That's not correct either. That was not my intention to meet with Mr. Brown. It was to find out what happened and what went on and when it took place and how it took place and all that good stuff. I think we did find out that when we discussed it.
So the man left there thinking that he was going to be terminated because...
I don't think so. Did you? I thought you just...
No, he didn't leave the meeting thinking he was going to be terminated.
I thought...
Did you?
He
talked about this last two council meetings.
It's because somebody had to put it on the agenda. Okay, if I understand it, what was your final action?
Personnel matters. We took care of.
Okay.
It's over with, I hope.
So, is that any more discussion on these? Next item is item E, discussion on soliciting for sponsorship donors and the naming rights of the park, major features at Irmo Town Park. And Mr. Walker, you put that on the agenda. I'll let you start.
Yeah, you had mentioned that there was a possibility of us getting a $500,000 PRT grant from next year. It was only available next year if we don't start the park project until...
Actually, 2014.
Oh, I'm sorry, 2 years, okay. And that's in the hopes that we could possibly qualify for a $500,000 PRT grant for this $1.5 million park that you claim is going to cost us, okay? And I have firsthand knowledge that there are several major corporations in town that would like to have naming rights for features of the park, such as the children's playground, such as the gazebo, not the gazebo, the picnic shelter, the stage, different features of the park. But I want to get council's approval to go in negotiations with these folks, to go ahead and see if I can secure the money that's needed for each one of those items. In particular, I would use the document that we had presented to us at the last council meeting where Irmo had said that the estimate cost of the gazebo was $100,000 or something like that. I'd go to this entities and say, hey, if you want to have naming rights for the gazebo or for the picnic shelter, it'll cost you $100,000 for that. And then they agreed to it. They write a check for $100,000, and we'll call it the Barry Walker gazebo for the next 100 years. I said corporations. But I'm saying I would like to have the council's approval to go in negotiating of that. And then when I secure, yes, we can do it, or yes, we will do it, or whatever the terms are, I'll bring it back to council at that point and say, here's what I have on the table. These entities want to name this particular feature of the park after them for the next whatever.
I think it's a great idea. I know we have a very nice sponsorship of the Okra Strut, and we have, for the Okra Strut as a presenting sponsor, we have a local bank that sponsors the parade. You're always trying to do things for the betterment of the town and the citizens without spending taxpayer dollars. And I think this would be a fine way to do that.
So that $1.5 million figure that the mayor threw out will get whittled down to maybe $900,000. Who knows?
And that would be good. The only thing I would say too on the, we call it the stage, since if I remember correctly, the Lexington Medical Center, when they sponsor the orchestra, they also get to put their name on the stage. Is that correct?
It's no, it's the title sponsorship of the event. Their name does go up on the stage, but it doesn't mean be on the stage. It just means
it would be no different than looking downtown at the Coliseum, where you have the Colonial Life Coliseum, and you go in there at any particular event, Budweiser's got their name up, or Avis Car Rentals got their name up, that type thing.
Right, the only concern I was having is if they want to put their name on the orchestra stage, if the orchestra is there at the park, and we've already sold naming rights to ABC Company, and they want their name on the stage, especially during orchestra. When there's big crowd of people.
We have always had multiple names on the stage, different size.
We do 3 different names on the stage every year
Okay.
for each event.
I'll be glad to contact them and ask them.
Well, just keep that in mind so we won't get 2 people wanting their name bigger than the other guy.
Well, somebody
The
might
check, the check's the one that
makes
makes,
sense.
determines the letter size.
I mean, but again, I need the council's approval to go negotiate with these folks.
And some more if you could.
And some more.
Well, we've got some others who want to talk to us as far as.
I've got some that's wanting to talk to.
Well, let's open it up. I mean, if y'all have other people that I don't know about, I mean, I want to give council the ability to go and negotiating on different features of the park.
Senator Cromer and Representative Huggins have both indicated that they have areas from which grant money can be obtained. Of course, I think we probably have worn out our welcome with PRT. You know, there was supposedly funds available from PRT that they know about that they said they could help us with.
I hope we haven't worn out the welcome.
That's what I mean.
This is.
I talked to them and they are satisfied on their end, so they're not bothered.
Well, you've got Mr. Huggins and Senator Cromer, and Senator Knotts, and Senator Corson, who all have expressed a willingness to help us with this particular project. They basically said if we'll come to them when we're ready, that they will help us. I would highly recommend that maybe next meeting you place on the agenda a discussion about maybe sending some delegations to talk to these gentlemen along with me. I would think I should go since they're the ones that talk. I talk to them until they're sick of me. They run from me then when they see me, but they'll also help.
Okay. We made that decision now, can't we? Just have Barry and Jake meet with these folks.
That's fine. I'll be glad to.
I'll try to set it up.
Okay.
I, for one, am in favor.
And Harvey.
I'm in favor.
In favor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All righty, presentation by citizens. This is
Wait,
where.
I wanted to make sure that we're clear with Mr. Moore and the Arbor Day Committee of our commitment to have Wick Klein help us with his planning projects throughout town.
Well,
I'd like to make a motion that we.
That's not on the agenda. I mean,
Sure, it's on the agenda. We talked
it's
about.
not. I mean, we can put that on the agenda and discuss it, but it's not on there. We didn't put it on there, and according
Okay.
to.
I want to make sure that Mr. Moore is clear that we, as a town of Irmo, are ecstatic and more than enthusiastically appreciative of the support that the Arbor Day Committee has done for the town of Irmo.
Most of us anyway.
And hopes to do in the future.
Do more.
I think all of us.
I think we want to make sure that it's clear that any help that Wick Klein can give you, and it's certainly within the scope of doing work within our town.
Sure.
That you have the blessing from the council, this present 2012 sitting council, that you have a blessing to use this talent to do that.
Right.
And I don't think there's anybody here who would vote against that, so.
I wouldn't vote against it. The only thing I would add is you could easily also let Mr. Brown know, so that he can let council know what's going on, and I don't think that'd be a problem whatsoever either on y'all's behalf.
We'll
That would
let
clear
him
out a
know.
whole lot of stuff, I think.
We'll let him know. We're hopefully going to be starting work. Hopefully we're going to be starting work on Corley in November.
As long as it's not down St. Andrews Road, somewhere else, we can have our blessing.
Yeah, I heard that.
But it's not, I would like to also say that it's not limited to just the Arbor Day Committee. Whit does things in town for a lot of people. He does things in town for the orchestra. He does things in town to help out businesses, neighborhoods. He's done things in town and will be doing a lot more in town with the new park. I would expect him or some of his folks to be over there as work is going on so that he knows what's what, where things are located. So I was
whittled down that $1.5 million figure anyway.
okay.
Can I just disclose to you what it is we think we're going to do this year for sure? I mean, just so y'all know.
Yeah.
We're gonna finish extending the crepe myrtles down the railroad track in front of I think in front of the storage facility. We've got about, what, 30, 40 trees to put in there with?
Correct.
This area in front of Irmo Elementary, between the Silver Fox and NBSC, Paul and I and Whit, and a lot of people met. We're gonna try to take the area from NBSC and behind, between the fence and the road, and we're probably gonna install 60, 70 trees.
Maybe not that many, but good many.
60 or 70 trees. We're gonna clean up that swampy area that you don't really know as bad as it is, but it is that bad out there. It's as bad as the hole in the ground used to be. We're going to work with Hill Creek, and we're not going to have Whit, we're not gonna ask Whit to do the work because this is for a private subdivision. We're gonna hire Pinnacle Contractors to go in and spend, how much am I gonna spend with, $7,500? $10,000 to basically enhance the entrances to the Hill Creek subdivision, both on Irmo Drive and Lake Murray Boulevard. And then we're gonna spend $32,000, and we're probably gonna spend another 10, unless I miss my guess. We're probably gonna spend about $40,000 at H.E. Corley Elementary School. What do you think, Whit?
Yeah.
40 will do good.
Easy.
Okay. And 16 of that will come from the tree party monies, 15 will come from a matching grant from the school district, and probably 10,000 more will come from the golf tournament we just had.
How much does that cost in town?
Zero unless you take the labor.
My point exactly. Thank you.
Next item is presentation by citizens. This is where anybody can address the council on anything, whether it's on the agenda tonight or not. And anyone who wants to address the council.
Yes, one more time.
Okay. And just again, name and
Yeah, Glenn Davis, Palmetto Park, down from the medical center. I'd like to suggest that council consider formal policy for grants. For gosh sakes, do it before you get into grant applications for the town park on Eastview. We all see what that has caused. I'd like to express my disappointment in that there already is not an established policy for that. Surely it's in the town manager's job description. I bet it says something about you had to be able to apply for grants, have some background or knowledge of grants. That's generally what town and county managers are, one of the things they're hired for.
Well, if it helps you out, I've written grants for over $4 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, and now I'm a little confused. I've been in other council meetings where these parks were discussed. It was discussed very clearly. I thought, a clear understanding of what and how the Veterans Park would be managed. I thought I had an understanding of how the town would pursue the new Eastview Park. If I recall correctly, there was a good bit of discussion about the possibility of future grants for that park to minimize any cost to the town. So for God's sake, please do something about the grant application thing before we get there. This meeting has reminded me of probably the first meeting I attended for the town of Irmo. And I believe it goes back to the reappointment of a couple of officials for the town, one of which was maybe a judge and another of which was maybe the town attorney. And there was apparently some problem, but then when asked directly, you know, I heard the same waffling then that I hear tonight. So, you know, I would just like to encourage anybody who's going to make a statement to stick by what they say, and if they later realize that they've made a mistake, be man enough to admit it. In closing, I would like to say I think and would highly recommend that this body owes not only Mr. Brown, but Whit Klein an official public apology. Thank you.
Man, what waffling did you hear tonight? I don't understand. I thought I was clear.
What was said, I mean, I'm not sure I still know, other than that it's not worth going there. You have to let people have an out occasionally so they can at least retreat in peace.
I'm up here now to get some facts straight on what has and has not been said. When it comes to the grant, the way Mr. Moore described it, it's pretty accurate. Yesterday evening, I received a phone call from Todd Ellis. He will be representing me when it comes to this grant deal with Mayor King and Pat Donnelly. On Thursday, Pat Donnelly, Mayor King met at Mayor King's store, talked about firing me, called up the town administrator, said I had signed a document that committed the town to $33,000, which is, once again, not true. Mr. Mayor, are you listening to me? Look at me. Friday morning.
You can say what you want to say. I don't have to look at you if I don't want to.
You're not man enough to look at me, that's fine.
No, I'm making notes as well. So keep on, go ahead. You're entitled to speak, go ahead.
Friday morning, we had a meeting scheduled for me, the mayor, and the town administrator. Mr. Hoot showed up. He pulled Mr. Brown out of the meeting before he had talked with me, heard my side of the story, and tried to bully Mr. Brown into firing me. That's a fact. That's a fact. In the meeting, he said he was going to have me fired for filling out the PRT grant. I had all of the authority I needed to do to sign the grant. I did not commit the town to one penny. These are facts. He continues to deny everything that he's done. He's implied that I've lied, cheated, and stole. That is not true. I did design the park. I did fill out a PRT grant. Me and my employees installed it. We worked our butts off. If we're guilty of anything, that's what we're guilty of. Thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to address council?
Just a question. When you meet as council members, is that behind, if it's behind closed doors, does that mean we can't hear what you say, or is that private?
No, this is a meeting here.
But when you meet, if the two of you got together
Oh,
and had a discussion about council business, would I be privy to know what that was?
no, not at 2.
About council business?
No, not at 2.
If it's 3, yes.
If it's three, I don't know, man.
Because they can't vote.
So that's why you asked him to leave.
No, they asked me to leave.
Asked you to leave.
And I think Mr. Brown asked him to leave.
I did, because I didn't want quorum in my office.
Okay. Because I'm just really curious to know what that discussion was about. That's all.
Me too.
Yeah. Just thought I'd ask.
Anyone else?
Joan?
Seeing nothing else, is,
Late. And I need to talk to
Okay.
okay. Seeing no one else, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion? All in favor, do so, show of hands. We're adjourned.
Yeah.